So real quick, so this is Exploring Access 2016, Chapter 2. And so in this chapter, you'll be learning about tables and queries in relational databases and also how to design databases and extract data. So we're actually going to, the last lesson we didn't actually, well, we created one from a template. This time, what we'll do is we're going to end up creating a database from scratch. And so one of the things that is helpful when you're thinking about setting up a database is to make sure that you kind of think about what it is you're trying to track and what it is that you'll be doing. And so, for example, for what we'll be doing, it's a database for a bank audit. And so you see here that you have your customers, you have the accounts, and you have the branches. Customers for the customer table relate to the customers on the accounts, because remember that it's possible, and a lot of people do, have multiple accounts at one bank. So like for me, at one of my banks, I have multiple accounts there, savings accounts there. So it's possible to do that. And so realizing that, so the customer ID links to the accounts table, and then the branch would be the branch that the account was set up at. And so you see here that you have your branches. You don't want to repeat that information. You're going to have one table for the branches, and then you'll just indicate in the account table where that account is held. And then you see here that you have the table name. And so in this case, it's just called branch. And then we list out our branch number, our branch location, what city it's located in, and then who the branch manager is. And that information is typed directly into the table. And then what you can do is so real quick, let me go back. So this is the data sheet view. And so the data sheet view, remember, allows you to go ahead and enter your data into your tables. This, on the other hand, is called the design view. And so this allows you to go ahead and set up the structure for the table. You're not putting the actual information. So each field then is branch ID, manager, and location. And then those are set as a data type short text because they're text information. And then, for example, if I wanted to get rid of this branch ID, it's selected, and then I could go up here and delete rows. To delete the row, in this case, it would go ahead and delete that field. And then we talked about this the other day. You have to have a primary key. In this case, it would be the customer ID. And so this is showing this is the customers table. And so you see here that number 3001, I believe it is Allison. And so that then links into her account. And again, she could have multiple accounts, but the primary key is going to be the customer ID. And then down here, again, jumping back to our design view, we see that you can have, this is where you would specify the attributes for that field. So for example, the type of data that would be displayed there, the field size, so how much will be filled there. And that's something you want to think about, is exactly what type of data are you storing and how much space do you need? Because again, that also has an impact on how large the database is in terms of file size. So you only really want to specify the field size to be the length that, the maximum length that what will be contained there. All right. And so you see that you'll specify that down there. We'll see that when we do our lesson. And so this is an example of a new field. So we would just click on a blank space. We would type in there, okay, start date would be stored as a date and time. We can put in a description. That description shows up on the status bar. We'll see that when we go to the lesson. And then we see here, they must have changed the type of data that it displayed to be a short date. So it's telling you that some data might be lost. So if you change, you have to be careful. If you change the data type from one to another, you have to be careful to make sure that you're not going to lose information in so doing that. And in this is, again, we're back in our data sheet view. And so again, we have our list of our branches. Right here where this is indicating would be a new blank record. So you'd be able to click there and you could start and enter one there. So let's say we open a new branch, you could put in the branch information there. Or you could click right here with the, looks like a play button and the yellow asterisk. That also allows you to go ahead and start a new record as well. So each row on that is a record. And I know we spoke of this again on Monday, but you see that you can import information. So let's say you have information stored maybe in another application, or maybe stored as an Excel sheet, you can import that. And so we'll be doing that. You have to be very careful when you do that, because again, all of your fields and the types of data, it all has to match. So we'll see that when we get there. And so you can import, again, either from Excel or another Access database, or also from a text file, XML, which is another type of a file that we're not going to get into. But you could bring in a lot of different types of data sources into Microsoft Access. All right. And then we can see here that we can, of course, go back. And again, this is in the design view. We can always go back and change the name of a field if we find the need in order to do that. And then this shows us the results of something that was imported. So relationships are important. So you see here that you have, and this is in the relationship manager, we see here that you have customers, you have the branch table and the accounts table. So we see here that customers links to accounts. And so it's a one-to-many relationship, because again, one customer might possibly have multiple accounts at our bank. And then we see here that again, the branch ID and a branch ID up here, we see it's one-to-many, because again, it's possible for the branch is going to have multiple accounts associated with that branch. So the join line, we see that. And so the example would be the primary key over here. And then the primary key for the accounts table would be the account ID field. And then we see here that the foreign key would be the customer ID. And in referential integrity, what that does is that allows you to not add or change records based upon certain rules that are established. And so we see here you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in the table. So if for some reason you try to do something and the computer is not letting you do it, just read the error, take a step back and kind of think, you know, try to analyze the situation. What is it that you're trying to do? Because you may have mistyped something, you may have, you know, done something. So that way, because remember, everything has very logical here in terms of what you're doing. And so this is setting up a single table query. So for example, we have just one table here, which is our accounts table, and then we can set up queries. So for example, here, the branch ID would be ascending order. So there would be an order and an ascending. And we want accounts that have balances higher than $5,000. So it would show us, this would show us the accounts that have higher than $5,000 in their balance. You also have the query wizard, which gives you some more options, makes it a little bit easier for you to set up things. So what we looked at earlier, this is the design view, and then you also can use the query wizard. Now you can start off with the query wizard, and then you can open it up in design view if you want to go ahead and make some further changes to it. And then you can specify different criteria for different data types. So you can have wildcards, you can have equals and greater than or less than, and an and or not conditions. You can specify those. You can also specify the sort order, so ascending, so it would be A to Z or 1 to 10, or descending, so it'd be Z to A, 10 to 1, okay, so on and so forth. You could specify the order in which you want the results to be displayed for your queries. Queries, basically what they are is it's a tool that's available to you. It allows you to ask questions of your database and then get certain information from it. And then remember that you can save your queries as an object. So they are very similar to tables, but they're not the same thing. It's another type of an object, and so you can save them. And we'll be doing a lot of that because we're going to be building multiple queries. And you might start off with one query, modify it, and then we'll save it with a new name so that we can go ahead and run it whenever we need. You could also go ahead and create multiple queries using multiple tables. And so we see here that we now have all three of our tables selected here. So we can go ahead and pull fields from any of them. And then of course you can go in, you can either modify the criterion or you can add your own. All right, and we'll see that. And then in this example here, we see that the data sheet results with the count of accounts per customer. So we have each customer number on the left, and then we see on the right the number of customers that, the number of accounts that each customer had. So in summary, when you are thinking about designing a table, you need to think about what information necessary to have. You also need to think about what information you're going to need now and into the future, and then how you're going to use that information. So for example, and I showed you this when I showed you the example of the Avon database that I have, separating out our customers' names by first and last name. Okay, that's an important thing because, again, thinking about how I might want to use that, or maybe I want to sort by last name, or I want to sort by first name. You know, just thinking about that. Again, thinking about your primary keys, what your primary keys are going to be, the common fields, and again, thinking about not having things repeated. So for example, when we look at our problem that we're going to do when we jump on the computer, the branch ID, you're not going to type in the name of the branch, you're going to refer that, and you'll have a separate table for the bank branches because that's something that would be repeated. So that's something that would be common. And also you can also do some calculations within your database as well. And again, share data, establish the table relationships. Again, thinking about that. You can have single table queries, multiple table queries, and then you can also query based on criteria and sort order our text. So if you open up to page 744, hands-on exercise 1, table design, creation, and modification. So what you'll be doing is you are creating a database for the bank auditor at Commonwealth Financial Federal Bank as he investigates the mishandled funds. Will be a great opportunity for you to showcase your database design and access skills. So create a table in Datasheet View. So you will create a new desktop database to store information about the mishandled funds. You entered the data for the first record, the branch ID, the manager, and the location, and you can refer to figure 2.8 as you complete step 1. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start Microsoft Office Access 2016. And so I'll go down here to start, and then under A, Access, we'll go ahead and click on that. And then Access opens up, and I want a blank database. So I'm going to click on that once. Comes up with this. First of all, what I have to do is I have to browse to where I want this stored. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the folder. Because again, this is different, you know, not to repeat myself, but this is different than how we worked with it before. So before, remember, with like Word and Excel and PowerPoint, we opened up a document, we did it first, and then we could save it. Well, with this, we have to save it first, and then we can go ahead and build what we're doing. Okay. So I have a folder on my desktop, AOM30. We'll go to that. We'll go to Access. We'll go to Chapter 2. And then for step B, I'm going to go ahead and call this A02H1 Bank, and then underscore my last name, oops, and my first name. Okay. And then for the save as type, we'll go ahead and leave that Microsoft Access 2007 to 16 database. So we'll leave that. So notice that then the file name shows up here. They automatically adds the file extension, which is correct. And then you see here the data path, and that is correct. So then I can go ahead and hit create. So then it's going to bring me to table 1 because I haven't saved it yet, and it's going to bring me to this. So then what I'll do is I'll go ahead under click to add, I'll click on that, and then I'll go ahead and click short text. So this is one way that you can design your database and add your fields. This isn't how I would do it, but this is one possible way to do it. And so I'll show you that, and then I'll show you how to jump right into the design view and work on that. Okay. So then we'll call it step E. We'll go ahead and call this field branch ID. Again, it's best to not leave spaces in our field names. So then I'll press tab. And then we'll go ahead and choose for the data type short text. Then we'll call this manager. And I'll hit tab again. And then I'll go ahead and call this, we'll hit short text again, and I'll call this location. So now I have my 3 fields and I have my ID. Okay. And then what we can do is we'll go ahead and type in our data. So what we did just so far is we've just went ahead and we set up the structure of the database. We set up our fields. So right now we have 4 fields. We have ID, which new indicates that it's going to automatically number as we go down. We have branch ID, we have manager, and we have location. So we have four fields. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and click on branch ID, or we could click down here at the bottom. This was lit up, and we could click on, looks like a play button and the asterisk. But we'll go ahead and we'll click here, and we'll go ahead and type in the information that we see up here in figure 2.8. So the first branch is B10. Manager is Krebs, and this location is in Uptown. Then we'll hit tab. So tab, you use that to move between your records and your fields in your when you're doing any kind of data input. So the next branch is B20. Esposito. And again, this is on 244 in figure 2.8. And he's the manager of the Eastern branch. And then branch 30 is Western. Branch 40 is Singh. He's the Southern. And then B50 will be whatever your last name is. So for me, it'll be Abbott. You'll put your last name, and you're going to be the manager of the campus branch. All right. So now that we've done that, notice that our table, it has not been saved yet. So what we need to do is go ahead and click the save button in the top left-hand corner. So you're not saving this entire database file, you're just saving this table. So that's really important. The database already is saved, but we've not saved our table yet, so we need to do that. So we're gonna save it, and we're going to go ahead and call this the branch table. So we'll give it the name branch, and then we'll go ahead and click OK. So entering field names, data types, and data directly into the datasheet view provides a simplified way to create the table initially. So this just is one way that you can possibly do it. All right, go ahead and flip on over to page 745. And so we're going to do step 2, which is to delete a field, and then we're going to set the table's primary key. So it is possible to modify tables even after data has been entered. However, be alert to possible messages from Access after you make design changes that may affect your data. In this step, you will modify the branch table. You examine the design of the table and realize that the branch ID field is a unique identifier, making the ID field redundant. So we do not need the ID field because we already have a unique identifier for our branches. So we don't want any kind of redundancy. So you're going to delete the ID field and make the branch ID the primary key field. And then you'll refer to figure 2.9 as you complete step 2. So that's one of the things. And again, what I will caution you about is anytime you get a dialog box and you're working at the computer in general, but particularly in Access, it's very important that you read what it says. All right, that's really critical. It's important to do that anyway and not just keep clicking OK and yes and next. But particularly in this case, in this scenario, it really is, okay? So what we'll do is we'll do step A, and so it says to click View in the Views group on the Home tab. So again, we're on the Home tab, Views, right here. So we'll click on the triangle and the pencil. That brings us to what is called the Design View. Before, remember, we were in Datasheet View, okay? So we're there. We're going to go ahead, and right now the ID field is selected. So that's what we want to go ahead and delete that. So under Tools, we see here Delete Rows. We're going to click that. Notice that you're going to get an error, well, not an error message, but an alert. And so let me read to you what it says. It says the following. It says, do you want to permanently delete the selected fields and all the data in the fields? So remember, you're deleting the field and also the data in the field. And so it says to permanently delete the fields, click yes. We do, so we will click yes. And again, just to underscore, notice it says permanently. So there's no going back. There's no turning back. So we'll go ahead and click yes. And notice now we have another message. It now says deleting field ID, so the name of the field is ID, requires Microsoft Access to delete the primary key. Do you want to delete this field anyway? Okay, well, yes, because we figured out that we have branch ID as a unique identifier. We're going to use that instead as a primary key. So we know what we're doing. We're going to go ahead and hit yes. But again, just really important that you are very careful. So now we notice now that branch ID is selected. That's what we want. And so now we can click under Tools, we have primary key. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. Notice now over to the left that you now have a key here. So that designates that now branch ID now is our new primary key. So we're finished modifying our design of our table. So now we can click on the Save button. That saves the changes to our table. And just a note tip in the blue box, it says you can right click on the row selector. So right here's the row selector. And you can display a shortcut menu to copy a field, to set the primary key, insert and delete fields, and access table properties. Use the shortcut menu to make these specific changes to the design of a table. It makes it, that's another place that you can go to. All right. So we'll go ahead now We're still going to go ahead and work on this table, so we'll go ahead and leave it open. All right, so we'll go ahead and flip on over to page 746. So this one is step 3, working with field properties. So you will modify the table design further to comply with the bank auditor specifications. And again, you'll refer to figure 2.10 as you complete step 3. So we see that. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go up here to the branch ID. We're going to click on that. And we want to modify the branch ID field properties by completing the following steps. So the field properties are down here at the bottom. And so for the field size, right now it's set to 255 characters. We don't want that. We want it to be a maximum of 5 characters. And so again, I mentioned this earlier, it's important to think about how much data you're going to be storing and how many letters and characters it's going to take. Leaving it at 255, that makes the database larger than what it needs to be in terms of the file size. And so again, if this was a very large database, it contained a lot of records, hundreds and thousands of records, you're taking up more space than what's necessary. So it's good to think about that. So field size, we'll leave that at 5. And then under the caption, we'll click that. We'll type branch space ID. So the actual field name is branch ID. Again, your field names, you do not want spaces, but even though it allows you to, but you would prefer not to have spaces there. The caption ID then is when we go back and we look at datasheet view, the caption ID is what we'll actually display, and that's a little bit friendlier for us as a user to look at. Okay, so you can have it more descriptive. And then down here for the indexed, we can say yes, but with no duplicates. We should not have duplicate branches. We should just have a list of how many branches we have. So then we'll go to our location field. We'll go ahead and change it from 255 to 30 in terms of the field size. So we should not have more than 30 characters. And then for our caption box, we'll go ahead and type in there branch location. Again, that's a little more descriptive of what it is that that contains. All right. So now we can flip on over to page 747 and we'll do step 4. All right, so we'll go ahead and create a new field in design view. So you notify the auditor that a date field is missing in your new table. Modify the table to add the new field. And again, refer to figure 2.11 as you complete step 4. So we'll click on the first blank row below location. We'll type in their start date. And then we'll hit tab. That moves us over to the data type. We're going to click on the arrow and we're going to choose time and date. And then we'll hit tab to move over here to the description. And we'll type in, this is the date the manager started working at this location. And then down here under the field properties for the start date, we'll click on format, we'll click the arrow, and we'll specify short date. But again, you can see how you can have a formatted long date, you can have the current date, there's different ways. We just want a short date. And then for the caption, we'll go ahead and type in their manager's start date. And then we'll go ahead and turn on over to page 748. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit save. Notice again, you have an error message or an alert that's displayed. So it says here, some data may be lost. It says the size of one or more fields has been changed to a shorter size. If data is lost, validation rules may be violated as a result. Do you want to continue anyway? We do, because we know what we did, and it's because the size of the branch ID, manager, and location field properties were shortened in the previous step. And again, it's good we read this, we know what we're doing. In this case, we can click yes because we know that the existing and anticipated data are no longer than in the field sizes that we gave. So we'll go ahead and hit yes. All right. So now step 5, modify the table in datasheet view. So then what we'll do is we'll right click on the branch tab and we'll go down here to datasheet view. I could do that. I could also go up here under and hit up here. So here we are back in datasheet view. And then let's try to see here. So we did that, and then it says position the pointer over the border between the branch ID and the manager's name so that it becomes a double-headed arrow, so like it is, and then double click. That just kind of sets it, and we can do the same thing for the manager's name for the branch location as well, and the start date. So we set that kind of like we did in Excel, just to go ahead and make the fields a little bit wider so it's easier to see. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put in our dates. So for the first one, what we'll do is there's different ways you can enter in a date. So we can use the date picker. And so we'll go ahead and put in for December of 2014. So we can use the back arrow and keep clicking. Okay, so now we're at December 2014, and we can click on the 3rd. That's one way. Obviously, that's going to take you a long time. So what you can do is just go ahead and type the date in directly. So we'll do that. So we'll do 6/18, 2013, and 3/13 of 2011, 9/15 of 2014, and 10/11 of 2016. All right, so we can put in the manager start date. Do is we can click the X right here to close the branch table. And it asks if you want to save the changes to the layout. We do, because we went ahead, we changed how the fields are displayed. So we'll click yes. And then what we can do is go ahead and double click on over here on the left. That opens up our table. And then what we can do is we can go up here to File and Print. Now, what we want to do is we just want to display a print preview, so we'll click on Print Preview. And so if we were to print this, this is how it would look. Occasionally, users will print an access table. However, database developers usually create reports to print table data. So, but we'll go ahead and hit Close Print Preview. And then we'll go ahead and keep this open so that we can work on the next hands-on exercise. Go ahead and flip your textbook over to page 759. So, hands-on exercise 2. This one, we'll go ahead and complete this. So it says you created a bank database, and you also have a new branch table. Now you're ready to import additional tables, one from an Excel spreadsheet and one from an Access database. Assume that the data are formatted correctly and are structured properly so that you can begin the import process. So we'll do step 1, import Excel data. You and the auditor have discovered several of Commonwealth's files that contain customer data. These files need to be analyzed, so you decide to import the data into Access. In this step, you import an Excel spreadsheet into the bank database. Refer to figure 2.23 as you complete step 1. So we'll go ahead and we'll go up here to File. We'll go to Save As. We want to save the database, so we'll make sure that that's set. And over here, Access Database, we'll hit Save As. It asks if we want to close the object, which is the table that we had open. We do, so we'll click Yes. And then it comes up. So then what we'll do is we'll go over here. We'll go back to wherever you're saving your files to. So for me, it's Desktop, Access, Chapter 2. And I'm going to go ahead and call this A02H2. And then we'll hit Save. And then we'll go ahead and hit Enable Content on the security warning. All right. And so now for step C, what we'll do is we'll go up here to External Data. And then we'll click on a new data source. We'll choose from File. We'll choose Excel, which apparently is a little bit different than what the book had, but that's okay. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and hit Browse because we want to specify the source of what we have. So we'll hit Browse, and I'll go back. In my case, I'm going to go back to my desktop, but you'd go to wherever you have your student files stored. And this time what I want is I want A02H2 customers. So now we've selected that. I'll hit Open. And then we'll go ahead and press OK. And then we see the field names, CID, first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, and phone will import along with that. And then right here it says first row contains column headings, and it does. And so then I'll go ahead and hit Next. We want to ensure that the CID is displayed and that under indexed that it says indexed no duplicate. We'll change this to indexed no duplicates because we're not going to have duplicate customers. So that's important. And then we'll go ahead and hit Next. And then we'll go ahead and turn on over to 760. And now here, this is where we would set the primary key. So we have one already that we want. So we'll go ahead and say, choose my own primary key. And then we'll make sure it says CID, which is the customer ID. It does. So we're good there. So then we'll go ahead and hit Next. Suggests the name of customers. That's fine. We'll go ahead and say that. So we'll leave that alone. We'll hit Finish. And then it asks to save the import steps. We don't want to, so we'll just go ahead and hit Close. So notice over here on the left, you now have another table called Customers. So we'll go ahead and double click on Customers. Notice then that you have the Customers table displayed. So we're done with that for this second. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead, we'll click the X to close the Customers table. So we have one more thing that we have to import. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll do step 2 on page 760. So what we'll do is the auditor asks you to import an Access database table that contains account information related to the accounts that you're analyzing. We'll use the import wizard to import the database table. And again, you'll refer to figure 2.24 as you complete step 2. But you see the figure, but then we're going to have to flip over to 761 to get the instructions. So this time what we'll do is we'll go up here under external data. We'll go ahead and click new data source. This time, if you don't have access listed here under import, you're going to have to go to from database and then access. And then we'll go ahead and hit browse to specify the file that we want. And then since we've been working in your exercise files, it'll probably be there. Otherwise, you have to navigate to them. And then we'll select A02H2 accounts. So we'll choose the account table. Then we'll hit open. And then we just want to make sure, which it is, that import tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and modules into the current database option is selected. That's what we want. So then we'll click OK. So then we have this dialog that is displayed. So we want under tables, we'll go ahead and hit the accounts table. Again, you might have multiple tables listed here, but for us, we're just going to have that one, and that's the one we want. So we'll select that. We'll click OK. And then we don't need to save the steps, and so we'll hit close. So now we see over here in our navigation pane, we now have 3 tables. So we have accounts, branches, and customers. So what we can do is go ahead and step E, we can open the accounts table. So we'll double click on accounts. We see our accounts table there, and then we can go ahead and close the table. So I can just right click on the tab and hit close. All right, we're finished with that. So now on 761 step 3, we're going to modify the imported tables design. So when importing tables from either Excel or Access, the fields may have different data types and property settings than required to create your table relationships. You will modify the tables so that each field has the correct data types and field sizes. Refer to figure 2.25 as you complete step 3. So then what we'll do is we'll right-click on the navigation pane, the accounts table. So we'll right-click on that. We'll go ahead and select Design View. That opens up Design View. And so now what we need to do is we've now have the table open in Design View. And then we're going to change, instead of AID, we're going to change the field name to Account ID, like that, with no space. We'll set the data type, or pardon, the field size for that. Let me move this up. So we'll change the field size from integer to a long integer. And a long integer ensures that there are enough numbers as the number of customers grows over time and may exceed 32,768. That's the upper limit for if you use the integer. Okay. And then for the caption for that field, we'll go ahead and call it account space ID. For the caption. And again, that, and then we'll do the same, we'll go over here to CID. We'll go ahead and call that customer ID. And then we'll go ahead and change, again, the field size to a long integer. Okay. And then step H for the customer ID. We'll go ahead for the caption. We'll type in their customer space ID. And then for the branch BID, we'll go ahead and change it from BID to branch ID. For the field size, we'll go ahead and change it to 5. And then for our caption, we'll go ahead and call it branch ID. And then we'll go ahead and click on, for step L, we'll click on the balance field, and we'll change the data type here to currency. And again, the currency data type is used for fields that contain monetary values. In this case, changing the data type is not consequential. Formatting the imported balance field as currency will not change the original data values. And then for the open date, we will go ahead and change that. Instead of short text, we'll change that to date and time. And then down here for format, again, under the field properties, we'll change that to a short date. And then for the caption, we'll type in there open date. And then what we'll do is we'll go up here under views, we'll click on the button, and that allows us to go back to the datasheet view, but it says we have to acknowledge this. It says you must first save the table. Do you want to save the table now? We do, so we'll hit yes. And then it comes up with this. It says that some data may be lost. It says the size of one or more fields has been changed to a shorter size. If it is lost, validation rules may be violated as a result. Do you want to continue anyway? We do, so we'll go ahead and hit yes. There we go. So we did that. And so now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do step O, which is we're going to go ahead and work on our customer table. So we'll right click, we'll go to design view. And so for CID, we'll go ahead and change that to customer ID and say customer ID. And then we'll change the field size properties again down here to a long integer. And we'll go ahead and call the caption customer space ID. And so again, we just want to make sure with that, the accounts table and the customers table will be joined using the customer ID field. So both fields have to have the same data type. So you have to really watch that, okay? And then, let's see. So for first name, last name, and street and city, we want to change the field size to 20. So we'll do that for each one of those fields. And then for the state field, we'll go ahead and change that to 2. And then for the zip code and the phone number, we're going to go ahead and change so we'll change the zip code and the phone to also likewise be short text. And we'll change both of those to a field size of 15. So we'll do that for phone, okay? And then we're gonna go through, do one more thing. We're just gonna make sure that there's no @ signs. We're here under the format, the @ we'll go ahead and get rid of that. if we see that. Okay, we're good. And then on the phone number field, under input mask, we'll click on the ellipsis, the 3 dots. And it asks us if we want to save the table first. We do. We'll hit yes. And we could hit yes on that some data may be lost. And then you see here that there's different input masks. We'll go ahead and choose the one for phone number. And so that allows the user to go ahead and just enter in the numbers, and then it would format it properly. So we'll go ahead and choose that. And then we'll hit next. And we'll hit next. And we'll go ahead and hit finish. All right. So we'll go ahead and flip on over to page 763. So step 4. So it says, now that you have created the tables, you discover that you need to add another customer and his account records to them. Refer to figure 2.28 as you complete step 4. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and click here up here to view to display the customer table, and we'll go ahead and click next to the asterisk right here. So that's to start a new record below 30010. And so then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and fill in the account number. So that would be 30011. We'll hit tab, and then we'll go ahead and enter the rest using your personal information as the customer. You can use a fictitious address and phone number. So I'll type in there David, and I'll type in there 123 Easy Street. You can type in whatever you want. Winton, California, 95388. Phone number 209-555-9507. All right. Note, and then you noted that all I had to do was type in the numbers, and then it formatted the phone number correctly. So then we're done with that. So we added ourselves as a customer. So we'll go ahead and right click and close. Notice that it doesn't ask to save, because remember, as you're entering records, Access is automatically saving your data. So now what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and enter the accounts that we have. So we'll go over here to the accounts table. We'll go down here to the bottom. We'll type in account number 1024. We'll hit tab. We'll type in our customer number, which is 30011. And then we set this up at branch 50. And we have a balance in there of $14,005. And we opened the account on August the 7th of 2018. And then we have a couple more accounts that we have to add. So we'll hit tab. So we see the information there in step E on 763. So we'll do 1025. So we're done with that. And so what we'll do is we'll right click on the accounts table, the tab up here, and hit close. All right. So we now added those 3 records. We added our account that we have, and then we entered those 2 other accounts. Now we're over on page 764. Okay. So it says to establish table relationships. So the tables for the bank investigation have been designed and populated. So we've set them up, we've put in the data. So now you will establish connections between the tables. Look at the primary and foreign keys as a guide. Refer to figure 2.27 as you complete step 5. All right, so now what we need to do is we'll go ahead and under the database tools, again at the top in your ribbon, we'll go ahead and click on that. And notice under relationships, we have relationships. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And then we'll go ahead and double click on each of our tables to go ahead and add those to our workspace. Okay, so we have our accounts, branches, and customers. And then once you have each of those, you can hit close on that dialog box. So then we're left with what we have here on my screen. And so then what we can do is under the customers, we can go to the bottom. Notice how the mouse cursor changes. We can drag it so that we see all of the fields all in one list like so. And then what we can do is go ahead and drag under branch. We can click the primary key for branch ID. We could click that and drag that over to the branch ID field in the accounts table, which would then become the foreign key of that. So then we have this box that's going to pop up called Edit Relationships. And so here, what we'll do is we want from the branch table, branch ID, accounts table, the branch ID. So we want to enforce referential integrity, and we want to cascade update related fields checkbox. And then we'll go ahead and hit create. So a black line displays joining the 2 tables. It has a 1 at the end near the branch table, and it has the infinity symbol at the end next to the accounts table. You have established a one-to-many relationship between the branch and the account tables. Each single branch is connected with many accounts, because we know that in the real world, we know that, right? That, let's say, for example, here where I'm at, you know, I bank with Wells Fargo. We have a branch here in Atwater next to Starbucks. Multiple people, of course, have accounts there at that branch. That branch might have, I don't know, thousands, 10,000 accounts, I don't know, at that particular, associated with that particular branch of where they were set up at. Okay. So then what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and select the primary key for our customers table for customer ID. And then we'll go ahead and drag that over under accounts to the customer ID for accounts. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and select to enforce referential integrity and a cascade update related fields. And then we'll go ahead and click create. And I'll go ahead and move this down. So we see here that we've established, again, a one-to-many relationship between the customers and the accounts table. So each customer should only have one record in our customers table. But the same customer we know may have different accounts. So for example, a customer might have a checking account, might have a savings account, might have a credit card, might have a mortgage, might have an auto loan with us. They might also possibly have more than one checking account. So for example, for our family, we have a primary checking account, personal checking account. We might also have, which we do, we have a business checking account. So you might have that. So we're done with that. And so what we can do is we can click on the Save button. That saves the relationships. And then we can close the relationships window. So we can just go ahead and click Close. All right, so now we're on step 6 on page 764. So the design of the bank database must be 100% correct. Otherwise, data entry may be compromised. Even though you are confident that the table relationships were set correctly, you decide to test them by entering some invalid data. If referential integrity is enforced, the invalid data will be rejected by Access. Refer to figure 2.28 as you complete step 6. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and flip on over to page 766. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and double click on our accounts table. And then we'll go ahead and add a new record. So to do that, we could just go down here to the bottom and click again. It looks like the play button and the asterisk. That takes us to a new record. And then remember, we'll just press tab after each field. So the account number will be 1027. And then our customer ID will be 30003. The branch ID will be B60. We'll hit tab, and the balance is 4,000. And it was started on 4/13 of 2008. Notice then that when I hit enter or I hit tab to go on to the next record, you'll notice that you attempted to enter a non-existent branch ID, branch 60. We don't have a branch that's identified by B60. So you're not allowed to do that. Okay, so you get a warning dialog box here, and it tells you the following. It says you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in the table for branch. Okay. And so because the access table and the branch table are connected by a relationship with enforced referential integrity checked, it's not going to let you add a branch, add a record with not associated with a branch. So we hit OK. So then if we go ahead and we change B60 to B50, it will go ahead and let us do that. So if we hit tab, all right. So now it recognizes the branch and it recognizes the customer because I made a mistake. All right. So we'll go ahead and leave that. So now we'll go ahead and close the table. We're going to go ahead and keep this open. What we'll do now is we'll flip on over to page 788. And then we want to save our database again. So we're going to go up here to File, Save As. Again, we want to make sure that we want to save our database as an Access database. We'll hit Save As. And then this time we're going to change it to AO2H3. As I say, we're about halfway through. This chapter actually has 4 hands-on exercises. But these ones should go pretty quick because we're just setting up our queries now. So, hands-on exercise 3, single table queries. So the tables and the tables relationships have now been created, and some data we entered now into the bank database. Now you begin the process of analyzing the bank data for the auditor. You will do so using queries. You decide to begin with the accounts table. So now in step 1, we'll go ahead and use the query wizard. So you decide to start with the query wizard, knowing that you can always alter the design of the query later in the design view. You will show the results to the auditor using datasheet view. Okay. Refer to figure 2.40 as you complete step 1. So we went ahead and we resaved it already. So we're on step B. This time we're going to use a new tab. We're going to use the create tab. And then under queries, we want the query wizard. So we'll click on the query wizard. Brings up this dialog box. And so we want to use the simple query. So that's selected. So simple query wizard, that's what we want. So we'll click OK. Brings up the simple query wizard. We want the table, the accounts table. So that's already selected for us. And so then we want to have in there the account ID. So we'll bring that over. We'll click the arrow. So this shows you all of the fields in that table. And then over here are selected fields that we'll use for our query. So we want that. And then we want customer ID. We want branch ID, and we want balance. We're not interested in open date, so we'll leave that there. So we have the 4 fields for our query. And then we'll go ahead and turn on over to 779. And we'll hit next. We'll go ahead and leave detail selected. That shows every field of every record. We want that. So we'll hit next. And then we want to go ahead and give our query a title. And we're going to call this Accounts from Campus Branch. So then we'll go ahead and hit finish. And then we see here that we have our query. So now this query, so the query name that we gave it, Accounts from Campus Branch, that describes the data in the query results. Your query should have the 4 fields, and it does. We see here we have the account ID, the customer ID, the branch ID, and the balance. And then the navigation bar down here at the bottom shows that we have 27 records that meet the criteria. So we had 27 records in that database, in that table. Okay. So now we're on step 2. Specify query criteria and sort order. We see now, guess what? This shows all of our branches. We're only interested in the campus branch. So we're going to modify this to just show just the campus branch. So the auditor indicated that the problem seems to be confined to the campus branch. So you use this knowledge to revise the query to display only campus accounts. So you'll refer to figure 2.41 as you complete step 2. So then we'll go ahead and click on the Home tab. Under the views, we'll click on View, and it takes us, notice with has the triangle and the ruler and the pencil, that is for design view. So we'll click on that. Takes us to design view for our query. And so again, the accounts from campus branch query opens in the design view. You created this query to view only the accounts for the campus branch. However, other branches accounts also display. You need to limit the query results to show only the records of interest. So under the branch ID, under criteria, notice criteria over here, we're going to enter in there B50 because that's the branch number for our campus branch. And then for the account ID, we want to sort that ascending. So we want the account numbers to start in numerical order from lowest to highest. So we want it ascending. And then we'll click on the exclamation point up here, which is run. So now we notice then that gives us, again, this is sorting ascending. And then we see here that this only now shows us the accounts that are, that are located at the campus branch, because the campus branch is branch number B50. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and go on over here to 780. So we're going to change the query data and run, copy, and modify a query. So when the query results are on screen, the auditor notices that some of the data are incorrect, and one of the accounts is missing. From your experience with Access, you explained to the auditor that the data can be changed directly in a query rather than having to go back to the table. So you can refer to figure 2.42 as you complete step 3. So we notice here that for account number 1020, the balance is incorrect. So instead of $1,200, we're going to go ahead and change the balance to $12,000. So you modified the record directly in the query results. And so then if I double click on the accounts table, we see this. And we notice now that we have one account now that displays $12,000. The account ID is 1020. The customer number is 30001. So the change you made in the accounts table from the campus branch query data sheet automatically changed the data stored in the underlying table. And then if we open the customer table, we notice the name of the customer whose customer number is 30001 is Allison Millward. Okay. So then we can go ahead now and close the customers table. And then we'll go ahead and add another record to the accounts table. So we'll go down here. We'll add another record. So we'll add record account 1028 for customer 30005 at B50. And then the account balance is 8,000, and the account was opened on 8/4 of 2018. So we hit tab. So we now know that we have a new record in the accounts table. So now if we go back and if we close, so if we close our query and we open it, we now notice that the accounts from the campus branch, we now have a new one. And we see that customer 3005 now has 2 accounts. One with a balance of 1,500 and the other with a balance of 8,000. So now what we'll do is we'll go up here to File, Save As. This time we want to save the object as, so we'll click Save Object As, and then we'll hit Save As. We're going to go ahead and call this Accounts from the Campus Branch Sorted. And then we'll click OK. So we just changed the name of this. So it says click View to return to the design view. So if we click, there we go. So now for the sort row for the account ID, we're going to go ahead and change that to be not sorted. And then for the customer ID, we're going to go ahead and change that to be ascending. And then for balance, we'll change that to ascending. And then we'll hit run. And then we see here now that customer 3005 now shows 2 accounts with the 2 balances sorting ascending. So we see that right here. And I'll just highlight for you with the mouse. So we see that right here. Likewise, All their customers with more than one account are listed ascending order for balance. So we hit the save button, that saves the query, and then we can go ahead and leave this open. So that now we'll do our last section. Hands-on exercise for multi-table queries. So we'll go ahead and close out of that query. All right, so based on the auditor's request, you will evaluate the data further. This requires creating queries that are based on multiple tables rather than on a single table. You decide to open an existing query, add additional tables, and then save the query with a new name. So over on 788, step 1, add additional tables to the query. The previous query was based on the accounts table, but now you need to add information to the query from the branch and customer tables. You will add the branch and customer tables to the query. Refer to figure 2.49 as you complete step 1. So we'll go up here to File and Save As, and we'll save our database again. And this time I'm going to have to go back to where I've been saving my things. And I'm going to go ahead and call this BO2H4. All right. And so then what I'll do is I'll right click on the accounts from the campus branch query. And then we'll go ahead and go to Design View. And then what we'll do is we'll drag the branch table over from the navigation pane. So that brings the branch table over. And then what we want is for the under location, we'll go ahead and bring that over to the first empty column in a design grid. So right here, this bottom part is a design grid. So the first blank is right here. And then we'll click under the branch. We'll click here in order to unclear it. Because what we're going to do then is the branch ID field is no longer needed as a result, because the location field provides the name instead. Because you deselected the branch ID show checkbox, the branch ID will display, and then it says delete the 50 criterion under that, the B50. So we'll delete that. And then under location, then we're interested in campus, so we'll type in the word campus there and hit enter, and Access puts the quotation marks around campus. So you substituted that instead of using the B50 over here for the branch, because it's called, the location name is called campus in the branch table. And then for account ID, we'll go ahead and have that set as not sorted. And then for the balance, we'll go ahead and have that set as descending. And for customer ID, I'll go ahead and leave that blank. So we hit run. So then we notice then now these are all of the accounts at the campus branch. So the branch ID field does not display in datasheet view because you hid the field in step E. Only the campus accounts display, which is 10 records. Next, you will add the customer's last name field and delete the customer ID field. So we'll go ahead and save the query design, and then we'll hit view. That takes us back into the design view. We'll go ahead and point the column selector over the branch ID field. That's in step K. When the downward pointing arrow displays, we'll go ahead and click to select it, and then we'll hit the delete key on our keyboard because we no longer need the branch ID field in our query. So then we'll go ahead and drag over the customer table over into our thing. And so now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click on, okay, we did that. And then we can go ahead and switch these actually. So we can move customers, branch. All right. So now what we need to do then is go ahead and click on the last name field. We'll go ahead and click, and we'll drag that so that it is now the second column in the design grid. Okay. And then we'll go ahead under customer ID, we'll go ahead and click on that, and we'll delete it from our query. Because the customer ID field is no longer needed as in the results because we've added the last name. So now we'll go ahead and hit run to preview our results. And that's what we want. And so then we'll go ahead and save and exit. So we can just close it. It asks we want to save it, we do. All right, so now we'll do step 2 over here on 289. Create a multi-table query. After discussing the query results with the auditor, you realize that another query is needed to show those customers with account balances of $1,000 or less. You create a query and view the results in datasheet view. Refer to figure 2.50 as you complete step 2. So you can flip on over to page 790. So we'll go over here to the Create tab in the ribbon. And this time what we want to do is we'll just go ahead and click on Query Design. And then we'll go ahead and double click under Tables. We'll go ahead and click on Branches, and then Accounts, and then Customers. We'll hit Close. And then we're going to go ahead and add the following fields to our design grid. Another way we can do is just double click on the fields that we're interested in. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and double click on last name, first name, balance, and location. So that adds it to the design grid down here for our query. And then for the balance under criteria, we'll type in there less than or equal to 1,000. And then we'll go ahead and click run. And we should have 6 records of people that have either 1,000 or less than 1,000. And then we'll hit save in the upper left. And then we'll call this balance 1,000 or less. And then we'll hit OK. So then we see we have another query over here on the left. So now we'll do step 3. The auditor request additional changes to the balance of 1,000 or less query that you just created. You can modify the criteria to display the accounts that were opened on or after January the 1st of 2011 with balances of 2,000 or less. Refer to figure 2.51 as you complete step 3. So we'll go ahead and click view to get it back in the design view. And then for step B, we'll go ahead and change 1,000 to 2,000. So less than 2,000. Less than or equal to 2,000. We'll press enter. And then we'll go ahead and double click on the open date. That brings that over here. And so we'll click under criteria. We'll type greater than or equal to 1/1/2011. All right, so if you type in the expression, you move to a different column, it will add the pound symbol around the date automatically. All right, and then we'll go ahead and hit run. So notice then that it displays the query results. So now this time we have to go up here to File and Save As. We want to save the object as. And so the database file type, we'll go ahead and save it as the object as. So we'll hit Save As. And then we'll type in for the name, we're going to call it open date 2011 or later as the query name, and then we'll go ahead and hit OK. And then we can click View to take us back into Design View. And this time, under the sort row for the open date, we'll go ahead and select, and we'll go ahead and set the date ascending. And then you can go ahead and flip on over to 791. We'll hit Run again. So now the dates are now in order. And then we can go ahead and just right-click on the tab and hit Close. It asks if we want to save changes. We do, so we'll hit Yes. And then we have one more thing over here, one more step that we have to do. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll do step 4, which is to summarize the data using a multi-table query. So now the auditor wants to show the number of accounts that each customer has opened. You create a query using a total row to obtain these data. Refer to the figure 2.52 as you complete step 4. So again, we'll go up here to the Create tab. We'll click on Query Design. And this time we're interested in the accounts table and the customers table. So we'll go ahead and add just those two. We'll hit Close. So we'll double click on the customer ID in the customers table. So we'll add that. And then we'll go ahead and double click on the account ID in the accounts table to add that. And then we can hit Run. The results show there are 28 records. Every account a customer has opened is displayed. The auditor only wants to see the total number of accounts a customer has, so we're going to modify the query. So then we'll go up here and hit the button there, the View button, to go ahead and go back into Design View. And then what we'll do is under the show hide. Okay, right here. So let me see. So we'll go ahead up here under show hide. We'll click totals. And then, so now both columns have a group by option in that. So we'll click group by for in the total row for the account field, account ID field, and it will say count. And then we'll go ahead and modify the field name to say number of accounts, colon, space, account ID. So you typed in a new field name followed by a colon to display the number of accounts in the datasheet view when you run it. So now we'll go ahead and hit run. So now the results show one row for each customer and the number of accounts that each customer has opened since the database was created. So we see here customer ID number, and then we see the number of accounts. All right. So then we'll go up here and hit the save button. And this time we'll call it number of customer accounts. And then we can hit OK. And then we can go ahead and close it. And then you're done. So then if you are finished, the file that I want you to go ahead at the end and submit to me to Canvas would be A02H4 bank _ last first.